This week on Lunchbox Envy, the trees they grow on can live for so long that some predate the Roman Empire.
Their oil used to be known as liquid gold.
And the world record for spitting a pit is over 21 metres.
It's olives, ladies and gentlemen. Hello and welcome to Lunchbox Envy. I'm Rosie. I'm a chef and food writer, and I'm here with my QI elves, Jack and Manu. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
I really can't start this episode without giving a big shout out to my niece, Zoe, age 6, who is genuinely the most obsessed person with olives I've ever met. Like, she
sweet.
eats them. She gets like 2 tins of Perello for her birthday every year.
Wait, the big one.
Yeah, the big one.
Oh my
wow.
God.
Yeah.
Those are massive.
She cannot get enough of them. So, Zoe, if you're listening, I dedicate this podcast to you.
Here you go, Zoe. This one is for you.
Wow. They're not doing too much adult humour.
Oh, yeah.
Right
Turn
now.
it off now, Zoe. Tell Mummy to turn it off.
So basically, olives are a fruit and they grow on trees. But if you eat one off the branch, as it were, have you ever done it?
No.
It's horribly bitter.
Have you?
Yeah, I tried it. And yeah, it's basically incredibly bitter. And there's a lot of stone.
I don't know about you guys, but so much I found out was more about olive oil than olives. Like,
Yeah.
I found the same.
and obviously olives are just sensational things, and we love them. We are obsessed with them. But they have this unique property of being able to make one of the most popular fats in the world,
Yeah.
and it's kind of just like crazy that this tiny little fruit that tastes like shit by itself actually makes really good, really delicious oil.
What's really cool about that is we actually used their oil before we started eating them.
Really?
Yeah. So they were a kind of fuel used widely before we decided, actually we can eat the oil as well.
Well, I guess it makes sense insofar as you have this bitter thing, you learn to squash it, and you can get the oil from it for your lamps, for instance.
Yeah.
And then it would take an extra leap of ingenuity to start brining it or preserving it or pickling it. So it kind of makes sense to me.
One thing I found out about olives, which I'm really embarrassed I did not know,
Okay.
is black olives and green olives are the same thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Black olives are just ripe, mature green olives.
They also produce very different oils. When you use green olives for olive oil, that's a much bitter, grassier oil. And when you use a black olive, it will be sweeter, it'll be milder because it's a more mature thing. It's basically similar to wine, I suppose.
Yeah.
I think we've learned a lot over this podcast that if there are 2 fruits the same color, typically one's just younger than the other.
than the other.
Like, it seems to be a kind of like consistent rule that we're discovering.
I like it. Another, obviously, I did not think about this at all. Olives aren't naturally salty.
No.
No, they're not. You have to brine them. There's another thing I learned.
And people might not know what brining is. It's basically leaving something in salty water.
Yeah,
That's
or a,
how you
or a
brine.
vinegar solution like an acid.
There are 3 main methods. There's the Seville method, where you use food grade lye, LYE. It's sodium hydroxide. It's basically a strong alkali. You often get it from wood ash. And that speeds up the sort of curing process. So there's no salt involved there at all. An example might be Gordal olives are often made with the Seville method.
Oh, such a nice word.
Gordal.
Yeah, I love a Gordal. Those are Zoe's favourites.
But the brine is important to draw out all the bitter flavours. And to complete the trio, you've got oil curing, where you pack them in dry salt and then you wash all the salt off and cover them in oil and herbs.
Yeah.
Ooh. There's actually so much salt added in the processing of olives that you can't count them as one of your 5 a day.
Oh,
Damn it!
heard it here first.
I know. I was really disappointed because I often eat them. I'm being so healthy,
Yeah.
and they're green as well.
Well, they keep you regular, as I understand.
Hey, you speak for yourself.
I have a long list of things my mum told me keep me regular that I use to excuse.
I often find, do you ever go to olive stalls in like a farmer's market And they've got those big tubs of like different coloured olives. Like
Yeah,
20
yeah.
different
They're always
varieties.
in wooden, but like
Yeah, they seem
bowls.
to be.
That's how
Yeah.
you know they're good.
Yeah, that's how
all
you know
about-
you're about to spend £15.
Yeah.
Am I the only one who thinks they smell of baby poo?
Yes,
I
definitely.
totally agree.
Oh, I'm not the only one. Good.
No, they have a really. I honestly, when I first tried olives when I was little, I was like, "What the fuck is wrong with everyone? These literally taste like poo. Like you want to eat that?" Now I love the taste of poo.
Oh, I'm glad we have this group therapy because I was also quite scared to stick my neck out and be like branded a freak.
Yeah.
Now you're the freak.
Happily, though, we've both grown out of it, and now we are
Yes.
olive lovers.
Well, when you age, your bitter receptors on your tongue dull slightly, which is why kids really don't like bitter foods, including beer and wine, which is probably for the
Well, it
for their
does.
benefit.
Because often bitter foods are poisonous, right? So
Yeah.
it's really evolutionarily
helpful, yeah.
beneficial
Totally.
not to eat poo and other bitter food.
Yeah, they hear first. Don't eat poo.
Let's open up our first lunchbox, and that's me. I'm really pleased because I'm really hungry, and these smell amazing. What I brought.
They really do.
These are probably one of my favorite ever drinking foods, snacks. They are olives stuffed and deep fried, and they are called olive all'ascolane from Ascoli Piceno in Le Marche in Italy. Let's have a try, shall we?
Oh, with
Oh my
pleasure.
God.
So
Thank
just to
you.
describe them to the listeners, these are small green olives, and they have been stuffed with pork and some different delicious spices and flavorings. And then they've been dipped in flour, egg, and breadcrumbs to make them crispy on the outside. And then I've deep fried them. I'm going to give you a little ASMR crunch right now.
They are fantastic.
Oh my God.
And you deep fry them in olive oil, which I always think if you
Wow. I'm
anthropomorphize.
so glad you asked. Let me talk about the olives first. I first discovered this recipe in Italy, having aperitivo one night. Someone gave me this, and they are so good. And in Italy, you can actually buy these in bags, frozen, which I have petitioned Bird's Eye several times to start doing, and they will not answer my emails. These are a very famous dish from Le Marche, which is in eastern Italy. It's a beautiful, relatively unspoilt region. Don't go. I'm saving it for myself. They're traditionally made with the local olive, which is the Oliva Ascolana Tenera, and they date back to ancient Rome, where Roman legions would consume olives in salamoia, which is it's the Italian word for vinegar brine. They were an ideal snack for long journeys because they're long-lasting, they're easy to travel with.
Delicious.
These are not long-lasting, Rosie.
These aren't. No,
those
these
will go in 2 seconds.
Anyway, in ancient Rome, olives from Le Marche were among the favorite varieties because they were just really, really good. And people like Cato, Varro, Petronius, names that truthfully mean nothing to me, but
Household names.
apparently some famous Romans really liked them and wrote about them loads. Anyway, many, many years later, in the 16th century, the first mentions of pitted stuffed olives were found, with them being named, interestingly, Olive Judei, or Jewish olives. And this is, unfortunately, not because they were especially popular with Jews. It was classic anti-Semitism
Oh no.
from the Catholic establishment. It basically meant they were pitted or soulless,
Oh wow.
which is
dark.
really mean.
Yeah.
So then in the 18th century is when we see a first evidence of a closer version of this. Basically, these started appearing on the tables of noble families in Le Marche. And it was basically because they needed a way to use up all of the leftover meat from all the banquets. There's no refrigeration, no adequate food storage in a very hot country. And so someone cleverly was like, I know, I'll mush up all the meat and I'll put it back in an olive and fry it.
Genius.
And that is where Olive Ascolani came from. And this recipe is actually from my cookbook, guys.
Oh, really? And what's that cookbook called?
That cookbook is called Good Time Cooking. I've researched this dish quite a lot, and like there's various versions, but lots of them will actually have like a blend of pork and veal, and they might have carrot, onion, celery in it. Some of them use sausage meat, some of them just use pork. I'm just using pork with a bit of parmesan, garlic, chili flakes, and lots of nutmeg, which I think is
Nice.
underused spice, but actually great in savory cooking.
How have you gotten that amazing porky mix in the olive?
Well, that is the fiddly bit that I was referring to. This is one of those things that does take a bit of time, but I like to set myself up a little station, put a nice show on or a couple of good episodes of Lunchbox MV podcast in my ear. And the way I do it is I make an incision where the pit would have been. So you know where the hole is. So you can open it up a bit like a book.
Ooh.
And then I just take a teaspoon of the meat filling and I stuff it in there and I push it back in together and sort of shape it to be a slightly bigger olive. So I cooked these in the studio when I got here this morning so that they'd be nice and fresh for my lovely pals. I did fry them in extra virgin olive oil. I deep fried them in extra virgin olive oil. Well, let me talk about olive oil a bit, because I think there are a few things I want to sort of debunk around the subject for cooks out there who cook with olive oil a lot, because I think we're told a lot of lies, basically. So I'm going to very briefly explain what olive oil is, because I think we might talk about it again. Olive oil is a liquid fat obtained by pressing whole olives and extracting the oil. And there are a few different methods to do this. There are sort of, very common ones and very artisanal ones, by hand, picking olives, pressing by hand, using your feet. Well, I don't know if that happens anymore, but essentially it goes through a pretty much like standard process. The olives are harvested, they're cleaned and washed, they're crushed. Then there is a kneading or malaxation. Yeah, the paste that's produced in the crushing of the olives is then kneaded, which is what helps the oil droplets sort of separate from the water and the solids in the paste.
Okay.
Then there's a separation, then there's filtration, and then there's bottling, and then there's eating.
The important part.
Let's talk about what makes olive oil extra virgin and virgin. And it's nothing to do with sex, guys. As much as I'd love it to be. For an oil to be extra virgin, the producer of this olive oil must cold press the olives, which means the temperature at which the oil is extracted is no more than 27 degrees.
Wow.
Okay.
27.
At any higher temperature than that, the olives start to cook, the acidity increases. So the lower the temperature, the higher the quality of oil. Like wine, there are many different olive oils from numerous different regions. And like wine, there are many factors that will affect the price and the quality. The scale of production is the first thing, right? So if the plantation is large and most of the harvesting and processing is done by machinery, the olive oil will inherently be cheaper. One reason that olive oil from Greece, for example, is actually often more expensive than other European countries is because Greece is really mountainous. So inevitably in certain parts of Greece, you have to harvest by hand.
Okay. Yeah.
Another factor to consider when you're buying olive oil is it a single variety? Sometimes in like large scale extra virgin olive oil production, producers will blend 2 or 3 different types of olives gathered from estates that don't grow enough olives to make their own oil. And this can produce a really good oil, but the blends often are also used to hide faults and sort of,
Of course, yeah.
So basically what I'm trying to say is like on the back of the bottle, where is it from? Who's making it? Is it one type of olive? Is it from one place? The more you can geolocate your olive oil, the better it's going to be, basically, is what I'm trying to say.
But unlike wine, you should drink it straight away, because I think people often get an expensive bottle of olive oil and they'll leave it in the cupboard for a long time. But the quicker the better, because it really goes rancid quite quickly, especially if it's exposed to light or oxygen.
100%. And like another common mistake people will make is they'll think that green oil is fresher and better.
Interesting.
It's not necessarily the case. In fact, quite often producers or, manufacturers will actually add green in. They add the green in.
What shame.
Dead bastards.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, look at that, she's using green oil. Okay, so on to this question that I've been wanting to talk about. So can you deep fry with extra virgin olive oil?
Well, I will just say, on the evidence of those stuffed olives, clearly you can.
I was going to say,
It's
you have
delicious.
proven, yes, absolutely.
I just don't know who started this rumor, because in the Med, they'll really often deep fry in extra virgin olive oil. The higher quality the olive oil, it won't affect the smoke point. And the smoking point, to be clear, everyone, is the point at which, held at a high temperature, oil starts to really denature, literally smoke, goes horrible. The theory in cooking is that oils with higher smoking points are better for frying. But the thing about cooking and frying is that you pretty much only deep fry a sort of a small range of temperatures, right? Like 160, 150 to 190.
Yeah.
I'd have never ever seen a recipe where you would fry over 190 degrees.
And the smoke point of
Celsius.
olive oil is about 170, is it?
No, the smoke point of olive oil ranges between 190 and 230.
Oh, whoa. This is really high.
So it's really high. Commercial, vegetable oils, seed oils, or even the lighter olive oil blends will heat up to 250, 260. And that's why
Never
people
get
say they
to
have a higher smoking point. It's a useless smoking point, but it's a higher smoking point technically.
It's technically true, but it's functionally useless.
Yeah.
It's like having a car that goes 220 miles an hour and you're never going to drive it above 100, let's say. It's not worth it. It's all wasted smoke point.
Yeah. There are studies that show that even when heated at a temperature over 180 degrees, which is the sort of typical frying temperature in this country, 180 degrees Celsius, for 36 hours straight, they
Wow.
heated the oil for that long. Extra virgin olive oil showed really impressive stability against oxidation, maintains most of its nutritional properties
Oh.
because extra virgin olive oil is mostly made of mono unsaturated fatty acids. The issue is that it is really expensive.
Yeah, it's
And
a
deep
waste.
frying is a really wasteful cooking method because you can cook with olive oil in multiple different ways. Baking with olive oil is delicious. I love an olive oil cake myself.
So good.
Very delish.
Olive oil ice cream.
Olive oil ice cream.
Very fashionable.
And, worst comes to worst, if you've got loads of olive oil left over, rub it on your skin.
Oh, yeah, like the ancient Romans and Greeks.
Yeah.
Right? They would often wash themselves with it. They would sort of cover themselves. If they didn't have soap or hot water to hand, you'd sit in a steamy place like a sauna, and then you'd cover yourself in olive oil and scrape it off with a stridula. That's called.
All of the dead skin
All the
would
dead
have
skin
come off
comes
as well.
off, yeah.
But didn't they used to rub themselves in onions as well?
They
Which we've
did.
covered. They would just
They
smell.
would be delicious.
They're basically a
Nice.
salad.
Gently sauteing under the Mediterranean sun. They'd be delicious.
Damn.
Right, it is time for our second lunchbox. And this week, that's coming from Jack.
I have brought 2 different types of olive oil, and I thought we could shop them. So one of them
Hey.
is the fanciest olive oil I could afford,
How much did you spend?
£30 a litre.
Whoa.
And the other is a supermarket own brand, light coloured olive oil.
So not extra
So
virgin.
not
just like
virgin
light
or extra virgin, let alone extra.
Slut olive oil. Okay.
Yeah.
I've got 2 glasses,
Oh, thank
one
you.
of each. Try them at your leisure.
Can I say on first glance, I think I know which one is which?
Of course.
There
but
is-
what are the clues?
Distinct difference in colour.
Distinct difference in colour and also opacity. One of them is actually quite cloudy, indicating sediment. You can literally feel it travel around your mouth.
Yeah.
Like it starts in my head, like the image I had was like a rainbow of flavour going all the way back. Yeah.
The flavour rainbow.
Which do you think is which?
The cloudy one, I think, is the expensive one. The lighter in colour one, which I think is the supermarket light, doesn't really have a smell at all.
Absolutely correct. When you cold press an olive oil and make it extra virgin, it contains a lot more polyphenols and therefore tastes a lot more, not necessarily better. But I want to talk about olive trees and their importance to the culture of the Mediterranean. I learnt that the city of Athens was only called Athens because supposedly Athena, the ancient Greek goddess of wisdom, and Poseidon, the ancient Greek god of the sea, had a contest to gift the Greeks their most impressive trick. Poseidon snapped his fingers and made a freshwater spring appear, and Athena snapped her fingers and made an olive tree appear. And the mortals down on earth in what is now Athens liked the olive tree so much more that they called the city Athens.
Oh,
And that
after
tree,
Athena.
exactly.
Just because the tree gave so much, so it gives you wood and it gives you oil as like a fuel and it gives you food.
Yeah, and shade.
You know, something I learned recently is that olive trees are better at sort of not being susceptible to wildfires,
Oh yeah,
even though they are
got oily
literally
fruit,
filled
yeah.
with oily, combustible fruit.
that's so funny.
They're really low to the ground.
Yeah.
They don't have loads of foliage, as opposed to, for example, in Australia, one of the biggest problems they're finding is that eucalyptus trees are really flammable and they're like at the center of wildfires, but they love wildfire damaged soil, so they grow really abundantly in that soil.
There's an ecosystem which relies on frequent wildfires, whereas olive trees haven't grown up in such an environment.
No.
But they are very ancient. In fact, the oldest one, we can't tell how old it is because the heartwood has disappeared. So if you can imagine, it's like a ring of bark and it's all hollow in the middle. So you basically can't count the rings to find out how old it is. But we think it's between 4,000 and 5,000 years old. And it's in Crete.
Oh.
It's absolutely huge. I mean, it's not very tall, but it's got such a wide trunk. And they actually used, it still produces fruit, by the way. And they used snippings of the olive branches to make those wreaths for the gold medalists at the 2004 Athens Olympics.
Yeah.
I read about one in Palestine, which they've been able to date. They think it might be about like 5,500 years.
Oh, you've beaten mine.
It might be the oldest tree, but it, again, one of those things, because it is so old, you can't tell for sure. But the one in Palestine's guarded by a particular family. It's really sweet. This Palestinian farmer called Salah Abdu Ali, and he'll sometimes sleep under the tree to make sure like no one messes with it. It's really nice.
Well, there is a famous tree in Athens on the Acropolis, so it's the hill in the middle of Athens on which the Parthenon sits. The Parthenon being an ancient ruin which is kind of symbolic of all of Greece. There's basically an olive tree there which they think has come from the original Athenian olive tree.
Wow.
Sorry, from the fake Greek goddess.
Well, is it fictional? I mean, we'll leave that for the listener to decide.
Depends what you think about gods and goddesses, right?
What is factual is that tree that is old enough that we don't know where it came from was burnt down when the Persians invaded in 480 BC. But supposedly, very quickly, a sprout came out of the ruined stump, which may be genetically the same tree. And that one's still standing.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And they're all protected in Greece. There are a number of trees which are protected and owned by the state, including this one. They're known as moriae.
Moriae.
And they're sacred. It's a bit like swans in the UK.
It's crazy that olive trees can live that long because technically, if you went to that olive tree and you took an olive from it and ate it, you could be eating olives from the same tree that like the ancient Greeks did.
Cicero or someone, Interesting that commercially grown olive trees don't produce any fruit for 35 years.
Whoa.
Or at least not nice fruit.
Yeah.
And then they retire them after about 150 years.
Oh, and then they will go to the olive tree farm and...
Back to my theory that you could eat 5,000-year-old, maybe not.
You can, but I think just commercially they don't produce as much. But it's very important in the Middle Ages when warring city-states would... the first thing they would do would be to burn the city's olive trees because they were so useful and so respected.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Rosie's talked about oil, and I want to talk about how it gets from a seed into a tree into the oil. So Greece is famous for its olive oil production. In fact, they're the country that consume the most olive oil per person per year. If every Briton has 1 litre, how much do you think the Greeks are having?
10.
It's 13 litres. But that's down from 10 years ago. They were drinking 24 litres a year.
24 litres?
Well, they weren't drinking it. They were consuming it.
But that's 2 litres a month, right?
Maybe they were frying it.
I think I'm on 2 litres a month, to be honest.
You're a Greek at heart.
Yeah.
But that's gone down quite a lot because the price of olive oil has soared in the last 5 years. And that's partly to do with climate change. Spain had its worst drought on record in 2022. But also there's a bacterium called Xylella fastidiosa.
Ooh.
And that absolutely tore through. Specifically, Puglia lost a third of its 60 million olive trees.
Whoa.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in about 4 years. It was only discovered in 2013 and there's no known cure. And it's already cost the Italian economy €1 billion.
Oh, no.
But there are specially trained dogs. It's very cute who can sniff out Xylella bacteria.
Oh, wow. And then what happens to the tree?
If it's found on the tree, it will be quarantined to prevent it spreading to the other trees. But it is unfortunately doomed.
Sorry, Mr. Tree. You're not allowed out of the house for 21 days. You can't speak to anyone.
Except over Zoom.
Love it. Rubbing it in hand sanitizer.
Yeah.
shall we dive into our third and final lunchbox?
Let's do it.
From Sweet Manu.
Hey. So I am actually wearing my lunch today.
Oh no,
What?
you always are wearing your
I
lunch.
know.
Like
You
the time when you
can
put the garlic in your sock and none of us knew it was there the whole time.
It's actually on a bit of my arm. So we will not be eating my arm today.
Oh.
I have bought ancient Greek sun cream, aka olive oil.
Oh, cool.
Oh.
Yeah. So olive oil actually has a natural SPF content of about 8.
Okay.
So it's not very good.
No.
No, there is not one medical professional I have come across in my research that recommends using an SPF below 30.
Yes.
But low SPFs do exist.
An SPF, in case you are living in a rock, is sun protection.
Well, if you're living under a rock, you don't need it.
Yeah, that's true.
So SPFs block harmful UVB sun rays from affecting your skin and giving you horrible nasties
Okay,
like
yeah.
skin cancer. And then UVA, which is the other kind of sun ray, are linked more to tanning and wrinkles. So we're looking at the protection against like shortwave frying you in the sun. So the way that sun cream works, obviously this changes depending on people's skin type and like whereabouts in the world you are, but you can spend roughly 10 minutes in the sun before you start burning. Applying factor 15 sun cream, you times the 10 by 15, 150, so you can spend about 150 minutes in the sun before you burn. So yeah, olive oil has an SPF of about 8. There are other foods that have naturally like occurring SPFs in them
Or
as
can
well.
we guess?
Yeah, go for it.
Mayonnaise.
Definitely.
I mean, if you apply it thick enough,
Well, of course.
probably.
Anything you can apply thick enough.
Egg yolk.
Egg yolk.
Ooh, I have not looked into all
I
of
reckon Marmite would block a lot of that.
I reckon that would make you burn more.
You reckon?
Or fake tan.
A fake
Here's
tan,
a
yeah,
fake
true.
tan.
The thing about Marmite is it's like really impossible to spread,
Yeah.
so you wouldn't really get very far with
You have
it.
to warm it up a
love
bit.
Yeah.
But this was from a study done in 2010. It looked at the SPFs of different foods. So olive oil and coconut oil had the highest, around 8. Castor oil was around 6.
Wow.
Almond oil around 5. And sesame oil was around 2.
Okay, so all oils.
All pretty
we were
rubbish.
going in the wrong direction
Yeah,
with
all
mayonnaise and egg
oils.
yolks.
And cold press olive oil, because it contains slightly more antioxidants, is actually slightly better at protecting you from the sun. So there's another reason to buy good quality olive oil.
Yeah.
So I was also looking at other uses for olive oil.
Oh, it's such a wonder product.
It is amazing, particularly topical. So rubbing yourself in olive oil.
As we said earlier.
And then I came across oil wrestling.
Okay.
Yes, olive oil wrestling, which is commonly held in Turkey. So it's actually, we think, one of the world's oldest sport competitions is the Kirkpinar Wrestling Festival. They also do oil wrestling in Iran and other Balkan countries, but it's normally in Turkey.
Okay.
This is its 664th year.
Wow.
Each tournament, they use about 500 litres of olive oil.
Wow.
So they're basically wrestlers that are just like dousing, completely showering themselves in olive oils before they tussle. And
I wonder if they use extra virgin or olive pomace.
I'm going to assume it's not really expensive
No.
olive oil if they're using loads of it.
And may I ask what the advantage is? What do you gain?
Oh, it's to make it harder
Okay.
because
you
you're
can't
really
grip each other.
slippery.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Surely all sports are harder when you're doused in olive oil. I can't think of a single one which would be easier. Maybe on luge.
So they douse each other in olive oil. And then the aim of the game is for your opponent's stomach to face the sky. So basically, you got to flip the other dude on his back.
Oh.
It's so interesting to me, the homoeroticism of most male-dominated sports. So I'd really love to talk about it one time.
Yeah. Well, you'd like this as well because you can also stick your hands down the other dude's trousers and grab hold of their pants in order to give you more purchase. That is a completely legitimate rule.
Okay, sorry, I've got to rejig. I wasn't imagining them wearing any pants.
Oh, no. So they're actually wearing...
See, you went there.
So they wear really specific buffalo leather leggings called Kispit, and apparently they weigh about 13 kg. So they're really hefty. So it's just topless dudes in leather trousers, sticking their hands down each other's pants. But according to a martial artist called Altley Purge, he's a really famous Kirk Paner martial artist. He's like, you cannot grip the other dude's genitalia. That is a big no-no.
Okay.
Yeah, but you can grab his pants.
Okay.
And is it only open to men?
I think so. I had not seen a single woman looking at the competition.
Yeah.
Gender equality.
That's we're saved for jelly wrestling.
I'm not sure I'm that jealous, to be honest.
No.
But yeah, it's still again pretty cool sport. About 1,000 components every year.
Okay. So 1,000 contestants and 500 litres. It's only half a litre each.
Still quite a lot. Still quite slippery.
It is, but
It's a bit of a waste.
Yeah, true. Do you think they're not like scraping all the excess off and frying their kebabs in it?
Oh my God.
Wow.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, avoid the chips at that.
It's a pretty hairy country as well. Anyway, so yeah, that's the Kirk Paner Wrestling Festival.
Amazing. So I was reading that the Greeks consume the most olive oil per year, but they don't actually produce the most. That accolade belongs to Spain.
Yes, those industrious Spanish.
The industrious Spanish, at their peak, they were producing 50% of the world's olive oil crop.
Whoa.
I think it's down to about 30% now. But what's interesting is that a lot of the oil that they produce gets exported to Italy, which you'd think was odd because the Italians produce the second biggest crop per year. But what's actually happening is it's being repackaged in Italy and sold to America. Because in America, they've got this fetish for Italian culture. The popular way to consume olive oil is to see made in Italy on the label. Like Italian olive oil is the whole thing. The organized criminal gangs of Italy and other countries around the Mediterranean have exploited this niche, and they will cut Spanish olive oil with cheaper canola oil, sunflower oil, and then package it in Italy and sell it to America with a huge markup.
So by organised criminal gangs, do you mean the mafia?
Yes, I do. Friend of the podcast, the Agro Mafia, as they're known.
Shout out the mafia. Please do sponsor us if you'd like.
They're basically not dealing with illegal drugs because of the risks involved. They're much more keen to adulterate regular products and sell them as premium products. So you can make 3 times the markup as you can with cocaine, for instance. So yeah, there's a real issue because it's quite hard to trace. Some estimates say 80% of American olive oil is not actually pure olive oil.
Is it really bad that because of the Americans' preference for Italian olive oil, regardless of the actual quality, I'm like, they kind of
They deserve it.
Like a little bit.
Yeah, I suppose.
That's it for this week's edition of Lunchbox MV. You can follow our socials for foodie facts and podcast updates. We are on X, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Lunchbox MV Pod.
Yes, and you can also get in touch and send us your facts, recipes, feedback, questions by emailing us at lunchbox@qi.com.
Jack, I see you have written in front of you something titled olive oil. Can you explain what that is?
It's a poem. So there's a thing called the Ranieri Filo della Torre, and it's an award, and it's a literary prize given to the best piece of literature about extra virgin olive oil.
Nice.
Oh, for God's sake.
It's been running since 2017.
In Italy.
Okay. And this is my entry. I translated it into English for you.
You entered this.
Depending on your feedback, it's in limerick form. There once was a man from Crete whose olive grove was incomplete. He needed a press to encourage his guests to stop squashing olives with their feet.
Oh,
Jack,
Jack,
lovely, Jack.
Love
it.
it.
It's going to be interesting to translate that to Italian and see if it rhymes. Though.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, my pleasure.
Well, thank you all for listening, and Olive you all very much. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Lunchbox MV was hosted by Jack Chambers, Manu Henriot, and me, Rosie McKean. It was mixed by Ling Lee, and it was produced by Alex Bell. This has been a quite interesting podcast.